but pay attention to three dimension in your journey. You should be a good listener. We should distinguish their needs and their expectation from this project.
Welcome to Process Pioneers, the show that takes a deep dive into the minds of decision makers, key influencers, and process experts who are pioneering the world of everything process. Welcome to the next episode of Process Pioneers. My name is Daniel Rayner. I'm the host of Process Pioneers. And welcome to the series. If it's your first time joining us, we've got over 160 episodes of conversations where I've sat down with process practitioners, process specialists, those that implement BPM day in and day out within their organization. So we've got a lot of content there for you to consume. And if you've been following the series for some time, then welcome back. We'd really appreciate a review. We're all about educating the market around the value in business process management, the value in understanding and managing and optimizing our business processes. And so your rating, your review, as seemingly insignificant as it may feel, it's going to help us continue to broadcast this message, spread this message out to a larger audience. So I'd encourage you to do that. In today's conversation, I have the absolute privilege of sitting down with Ahmad Daliri, who is a BPM consultant, has worked with more than 20 organizations and not small organizations at that. I was just talking to Ahmad before we started rolling here, and they're very, very large organizations. So lots of experience there. We've actually had Ahmad on the podcast series previously. I can't quite remember how far back, but it would have been at least a good 12 months back. We had Ahmad on this series. So excited to have you back on the series again. Ahmad, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for inviting me again for talking about the BPM. As I will say, I really enjoy talking about the BPM process mining every time, every way. And we should know that process man should be a person that not only provide the advice on process and technology, but also contribute by a real implement and improvement change immediately in organizations.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a very key point. You've already kicked us off there with, I think, a lot of people will dive into technology, dive into, automation and things like that. But really at the core of business process management, or one of the elements is this whole idea of change. An organization is going to go through a significant change. And what does that mean? That means people will go through change. And I think that when we're working with people, that's a whole nother topic in itself, is how do we work with people? How do we bring people along this journey? But I know, Ahmad, you've worked with many people in many organizations. I know organizations will bring you in to help them with their business process management journey. Can you tell us a little bit about why an organization would bring you in? What's motivating them to bring someone like yourself into their organization?
I think at the first we should pay attention to the speed of change and grow in knowledge and technology in field of business process management is very high. And if the organization are not aware about this change, cannot adopt them. Having an experience in field of as a consultant in field of business process management who has a experience in this field can provide with a shortcut solution and useful and provide with a basic and valuable help in this space of knowledge and special the technology, because technology have a very main change in business process management, and I can keep the organization in a step and in this step with a technology frontier. Therefore, the organization will have been more successful if they use the BPM consultant, and even can guarantee you're successful in this journey. But also, we know a good consultant can help us to prevent waste our time and waste our money in this journey. And I'm as a process consultant. I'm a outside consultant. A person can see the organization from the outside and can see many things that we couldn't pay attention when we are among in internal in a organization. And we can use the determine the, for example, by knowing the business structure and business model can help to mapping many things and determine the role and responsibility by BPM and or workflow for the organization, and we can guarantee that everything can do and execute by the mapping of BPM and implement in the technology infrastructure, well, like BPMS and other tools like this, and process consultant. When we talk about process consultant, we should pay attention that the organization essentially need to people that help to do their journey in BPM faster than before. With the other hand, the object of process consultancy is to increase production capacity, increase income, decrease cost, decrease wasting time, and like other things. And we know a fast grow is a dream for a business owner and shareholders during their journey. Then process consultant with the people that know about the age of knowledge and technologies in BPM can help to organization that provide the technological infrastructure and physical structure and help to organization establish processes in their organization. And can provide and can give a rest view in organizations' problems. We know over the time it's the process consultant can, as an external consultant, bring an impartial and free view of issue of common day-to-day businesses and offering about the function of processes and interaction of teams, and find problem between interaction of people in the organization, or determine and distinguish bottleneck among the doing any processes. And at the first step in any businesses, if we should pay attention that we should see anything as a impartial and as a free view, and process consultant can provide this. Also, process consultant comes to play and combining a problem-solving technology and management approach to create an optimal strategy in corporate routine. For example, process consultant can map processes and gather information about the current processes. I want to emphasize that at the first step, we should pay attention to current processes, and after that, we analyze processes and improve the current processes, or provide a critical point assessment, or modeling processes, design processes, or redesign processes, analyze processes, use some tools like as technique, or like process mining, RCA, Lean, Six Sigma, and other techniques that help to distinguish the problem of processes and provide a good and implementing solution for these processes. After that, we can help to monitoring the processes and check alignment between strategy and processes, or elimination of roles and bottleneck during the execution of processes, provide the standardization and the greater transparency, especially with the process mining. We know the process mining nowadays. When we talk about the process mining, we can say it is like X-ray and can provide very good transparency for organization and help to increase production capacity or decrease wasting time. And I talk about the wasting time with process mining in some of our project in order to cache processes. And increase or establish quality standards or with help of the processes, or we can manage our resource. We know our resource around the world for any company nowadays is restricted, and we should pay attention how they use their resource among the people, among the processes, among their organization is very important and directly impacts on their efficiency and their importance. And also can help to manage change in organization. Nowadays, our environment is not stable, and or we face with many things from our environment. Then we should be flexible about this change, and we should establish this change and have a good reaction face of this change in our organization. The processes can help us to be flexible and do a very fast and correct reaction about this change.
Right. No, there's a lot there. you do a lot of things, Ahmed, and I'm sure that it's you've built up this kind of knowledge and experience from working in the BPM space for such a long period of time, and also across many different organizations. But when an organization wants to bring you in, do they typically know specifically what they want you to do? Or is that something where they bring you in and they say, we have no understanding of our processes, we've got no clarity, no transparency, we need you to tell us where we need to start? Is it the former or the latter? Which, do organizations have a clear idea of what they want you to do when they bring you in?
I think it's related to maturity, process maturity of organization. What's in Iran? We can say almost all of big companies know about the processes, but we should change their attitude, because their attitude is not exactly correct about the processes. And at the first step in our any project, we clarify what's the process and what's the achievement of BPM in that organization. And after that, we start our project. Then first step, we should clarify the definition of processes, the achievement of processes, benefit of processes, and talk about the roadmap of processes, because some organizations think that BPM is buying a software, and with buying a software we can establish business process management. Is a wrong idea. We should have a roadmap. At the first step, we should need a process architecture, and then as-is modeling, and after that, online processing and provide the documentation for processes, and we determine KPI for each processes. After that, after analyzing, we design it to be processes. Now we need a software for implementing the processes. It's a hard part of our project, because we should persuade the organization that BPM is not a software. BPM is a roadmap, is a approach or methodology. That among this approach, that methodology, we use techniques and tools, and technical tools help to establish business process management.
Yes. Yeah. Great. And you mentioned there a couple of times now, you've mentioned process modeling and you've mentioned process mining. And I know that some organizations will have, I don't know, maybe have an emphasis towards one or the other. They're doing a process mining thing, or they're doing a process modeling thing. How does process modeling and process mining work together?
Yeah. Let's talk about a bit about the process mining. What's process mining and its position among the BPM? Process mining is a technique and tools, and BPM is the approach. Process mining can help to BPM to some phases of the BPM. For example, when we want to modeling the processes, we have some methods like interview, review documentation, face-to-face or video conference, and like others. I can say it is a traditional method for modeling the processes, but what is exactly related to organization. Now, what's the process mining? Process mining is a tool that technique can help us to discover processes and do conformance checking, performance analyzing, and maybe some productivity. And among the life cycle of BPM, when we're modeling the processes, discovery technical process mining can help us. And after that, in analyzing BPM, we can use process mining tools to distinguish bottleneck, investing time, and check the performance and or do conformance checking. Now we can adopt both of them. When we want to design or model the processes, if we have an event log, because event log is the fundamental, is the base of first principle of process mining. If we don't have an event log, we can't do process mining. If we have an event log, we can use event log for discover the processes. If not, we should do interview, for example, with business experts and model the processes by BPM. And BPM is my advice because it's a very good standard for modeling the processes. And it's a good way is do both of them. In our one project, we model the processes with interview, and we discover the processes with process mining. After that, we conformance both of them and provided some point for updating the software and change the software because we check the real model with the mental model. Mental model we can discover with the interview by traditional way for modeling the processes, and real model discovered by process mining, which process mining is based on event log and everything we did in the past. Then it's a very real and exact model. My advice in organization that have a software and do their duties and works on the software, do both of them and check and check conformance and do conformance checking with a mental model and real model are very useful and help to, for example, IT units to update the software and help to distinguish wasting time and decrease the time of processes and maybe they can distinguish many problems among the processes, and we can schedule and plan for the future to provide a continuous improvement.
Great. And do you have an example of where you have implemented process mining and you've taken a particular process and you've significantly been able to reduce the time, reduce the costs, any of those? Can you share an example with us?
Yeah, as I have written example in my LinkedIn page is have a process mining project in a steel company. We should do this for order to cash processes. We should do order cash processes. The process mining at the first start with the hypothesis, with the question, with the for the problem solving. In this project, at the first step, we talk about the problems and try to identify their question. They want to, our client want to know about the other the process change with our unit, with our type of request, with our type of goods or stuff, or they want to know the bottleneck of their processes, and they want to know about the loops or reworking their processes. We design 3 steps for this project. At the first step, after data extract, we should do data preparation. then discover the processes, and after that improvement. When after extracted data, we understood that data have some noise and missing data. We should do data preparation for the importing process mining software, because the format as data was not suitable. We did data preparation. After that, we import the event log to the process mining software. We discovered the process. In first step, we understood that the processes is a very complex and we have a spaghetti model. We determine more than 700 variants. It's very high, and it's very trivial in my idea for the processes. And we determined that this event log not related to just order to cache as a one processes. Is a 6 different processes. We separate with 2 main attitude with event log, and after that we try to find a bottleneck and problems for these processes. We have something with business expert, with the IT expert, and talk about the log, talk about the DFG, the model of processes, and try to determine the KPI and dimension for the improvement on processes. We understood that the first priority in the organization is the time, and we should focus on the time. And we distinguish some bottleneck in some units and among the processes, and after that we try to decrease the time. We change time of the order cache processes up to 30%. Actually, we decrease 30% time of these processes after analyzing and implementing again order to cache process in that organization.
Wow. That's amazing. That's impressive. I'm sure that organization would have been very pleased with that outcome. And I know that we've got people that listen to this podcast that they've been involved in the process space, whether they work internally at an organization or whether they work as consultants. And I know we have a few people that they're wanting to start their own kind of consulting business. They want to start consulting to organizations around this topic of business process management. So do you have any advice that you could give these people that they're looking to start consulting? They're looking to jump out of an organization and work from more of an advisor or a strategic perspective. Do you have any advice for these people?
Yeah, at the first, they should know that they want to choose a challenging journey for life, because consulting, you're faced with many challenging in their job, but they need to know about something. For example, they know about knowledge of BPM, know about and try to get experience in BPM and pay attention to soft exit. It is like knowledge like a gun, and experience like for example like a bullet, and soft skills like communication, like it shoot to the target. Then they should be very sensitive about that. But at the same time, we should provide the positioning among their company or among their environment for the business process management. When we talk about the positioning, we should pay attention. In my idea, 5 steps about the 5 steps about the positioning. The first step maybe is recognize the KPI for the point of the contractor, for the point of the manager about that, because many times many people try to do something and try to be a helpful for organization, but we should pass their needs we should meet their needs and their expect among their work. If not, we are not useful, we are not helpful for that organization. But then the first step, we should recognize the indicator KPI from the view of the our manager or our client and contractor. After that, we should be reliable and trusty. Always be honest. Always be honest and talk about true thing and do right thing regardless of personal risk. And act based on value of the organization and their belief, and pay attention to their belief and organization, and focus on the goal and vision that you should you should give to the organization. The third point is create identify. You should introduce yourself as a process man, that a person have a good knowledge about that. You can write a newsletter. You should provide a good content, very good content, and maybe age of knowledge of BPM and try to customization for your client. And after that, release among your environment. And after that, you should make a difference from other people. For example, when some people talk about BPM, you should choose a main advantage for yourself. For example, I'm trying to be try to be a specialist and try to know about the age of knowledge about the BPM in my country. And after that, I'm trying to be a first person that talk about the BPM and their advantage in our organization. You should try to be a leader in field of business process management in your environment and maybe your niche market. And the last part is stability. Should be stability. You should be consist in your past. Maybe you should do this work several times and do and try. If you are stable in your past, I'm sure you can get a good result as a BPM consultant in your journey. But pay attention to two dimension in your journey. You should be a good listener and ask a deeper question. When we want to do a BPM project, we should distinguish their needs and their expectation from this project. It's very important. For example, maybe I focus on wasting time, but my client want to know about for example, how they can increase their performance. If I don't meet their needs, I couldn't successful in my project. When I can do this, when that's ask a good question, deeper question, and discover their needs. Then right. We should be a good listener. After that, we should be a helper. We should deal with organization. We work alongside with organization and throw among the processes. We should enjoy our job. If we enjoy a job, we can help organization. I'm sure about that. When we talk about the processes, many people said me that when you talk about the processes, we enjoy about process because as myself, I enjoy when we do my job about the BPM as a BPM consultant, and I really enjoy from processes, and I try to walk along the organization, try to walk along the processes step by step. And at the end, we should be a learner. We should be a learner every day. Every day, we should have a special time, at least 1 hour a day, read new paper or search about your job. BPM, and know about what happened in BPM, or know and read about the case study, read about the new knowledge, try to test new software about that, and you should be a sustainable and generative. Besides besides this dimension, you should be a creative and analytical person.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Wow, you've given us a lot there. That's great, Ahmed. And I just want to go over a couple of those things because I think it's really important. But you were saying recognizing the KPIs that are being managed by the organization, and I think that's so important. We need to understand what are their indicators, what do they care about. We need to be aligned with that. We need to understand that if we're going to be able to help them actually get to where they're trying to go. And introducing yourself as a process specialist, producing good content around BPM. So positioning yourself in the marketplace that, hey, this is what I know. This is what I've done in the past. This is what I've seen organizations do. And this is how you should approach BPM. And if people in the marketplace can see that, Ahmed is the expert in this, he's already given us so much valuable information. We should get Ahmed in our organization to really help us get to the next level. So producing good content, I think that's great. Being a leader in the field of BPM, practice, making sure we've got runs on the board and we can show and produce those results and show that we are credible. We have done this before. This isn't our first rodeo. And be a good listener and ask deeper questions. I love what you were saying there. I think that's so important and it's so vital because we're working with people. We need people to know that we understand their role, and the best way for us to understand their role is to get them to share with us because we're not in their role. So we need them to tell us what they're doing, what their concerns are, what their challenges are, what's working really well and what's not working really well. And then I think what you were saying there at the end there was distinguishing between their needs and their expectations for a project, because they could be two different things. They may need one thing, but they may be expecting something else. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. And so if you have an organization that maybe they think they need one thing, but they actually need something else, I think distinguishing between that, I think that's very important. But Ahmed, I just want to thank you for sitting down with me today. I've been taking a lot of notes here. I've been learning a lot from yourself, and we've really only gone for about 30 or so minutes. We've only really scraped the surface of this topic of BPM, but I'm sure our audience has learned a lot from this conversation. So I just want to thank you for sitting down with me. It's been an absolute privilege.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me to the next episode of Process Miner. I'm sure Process Mining can help to provide a good culture about the BPM and help to organization and impact to performance or organization. And I really follow your decision in many times and try to know about the BPM with help of your podcast and video on YouTube. I'm a fan of you actually, and enjoy your decision. And at the last, just I want to add one point about the process or process consulting. Innovation use me to the difference between dictation trends in your sector or following the trail of your competition success. But today, the terms refer to fundamental condition of existence for businesses in a volatile and demanding digital age. But why am I talking about the innovation? Because a good process management, a good process consultancy is directly linked to how promote innovation in your company. Processes should become to organization try to be innovative in their journey.